Okay, I just wanted to get some thoughts out there after the memorial for Charlie Kirk. I know I did one of these videos pretty fresh after his assassination, and that one was totally unscripted. I was just talking directly to you guys, directly to the camera. That's not actually how I'm used to doing things. When I was doing my show on One American News, Nights with Chris Boyle, you could probably still find some clips here or there. I used to write my own scripts. I wasn't a full Joe Biden, but I did have a little teleprompter, and I was pretty used to reading off of that. And I would actually auto dictate all of my thoughts into my phone and then copy paste that right into the prompter and then read that back to myself. So that way I kind of knew that what I was saying would feel like something that was said, not something that was typed, but at the same time, it's something that I already worked through and had polished and had a general idea of what I was going to be saying. I don't have a prompter right now. Maybe in the future I'll get one, but I still scripted this out. I actually posted it to Substack. If you want to check out my Substack, it's on there. You could do a read through. It's probably not going to be a direct transcript. I'm probably going to try to riff a little bit here, but if you do want to check it out, it's out there. My Substack, just like the socials for this account here and basically everywhere else you want to find me, is Hey Chris Boyle. I think it's youtube.com/Hey Chris Boyle. On X, that's at Hey Chris Boyle. Instagram at Hey Chris Boyle. I'm on Truth, and I'm actually on Blue Sky too, but I don't post either one of those. But yeah, so I'm just going to read off of this a little bit here and then try to talk to you guys. If you have any thoughts about how I could format this moving forward, how I could improve the content, go ahead and either shoot me a DM, or you could literally just drop me a comment right there in the comment section, even if it's something negative. I have a pretty thick skin. I have a wife and 3 kids, and they complain to me all the time. So I'm used to whatever you guys have to throw at me. I'm sure it's something that I can handle. Okay, so right off the top, I'm sure that God, I don't want to read too much off of the script, but here we go. Let's just play it by ear. I'm sure many of you guys have already seen the memorial that was held for Charlie Kirk, right? By now, honestly, it's been like a week, and many of you guys watching might have actually attended. There was a bajillion people there. It was so crowded. There were lines out the door. You saw people had to leave things because they couldn't let anyone bring stuff in. I actually saw, maybe I'll be able to put this up in post-production, but I saw images of leftists showing like trash that was on the ground, stuff that was on the ground, be like, oh, you nasty MAGA people, this is almost half as bad as when we burned 25 cities down over a fentanyl addict. In reality, they had super tight security for the event, where the President of the United States, along with other cabinet members, were at. So yeah, you couldn't really bring anything inside. I don't even think you could bring a purse. It's just like a water bottle. Probably not even a cool glass one like this. So people did have to leave things outside in order to get in. I don't know how many of those people were able to retrieve their belongings, but depending on what they left behind, hopefully you were able to find your valuables if one of you out there had to leave stuff. That said, it looked like it was a really wonderful event. I'm going to jump back in here. I try to focus only, so I didn't actually see the event live. I try to focus on just God and my family on Sundays. I try to avoid anything that's work related, and I know this was a memorial and they talked a lot about God and faith at the event, but at the end of the day, covering news is work for me. So I tried, and I'd have, look at me, I'm talking about it right now. I'd have to watch it later. It's something that I'm kind of obligated to do. So I just avoided it on the Sunday that the memorial happened and just hung out with my family, went to church, did what people are, at least us Christians are supposed to do on Sunday. And since the whole world is called to be Christian, that's what everyone should be doing on Sunday. If you're not doing that, take the Sunday to spend on the Lord. So I missed it, but then I did watch it after the fact. But it wasn't just a religious event, like I said. The politically motivated murder of a prominent conservative activist is exactly the sort of event it's bound to reverberate through society, right? And perhaps as a testament to the life of Charlie Kirk, much of what we've seen so far has been amazingly positive, right? One of the most immediate things that I've seen personally are calls to unity, at least among the right. I have seen some calls for unity among the left, but those are both misguided and were very, very quickly rebuffed. But among people on the right, people who, we won, we all were in the fight together, and then we got in, we have Trump in, and then that's when, frays often start to appear in groups like this after you reach an initial goal. But those were quickly smoothed over, save for a couple of people who are on a crusade against what they call woke MAGA, which as far as I could tell just means people who want to actually use power that we fought so hard to get in order to make this country, great again. But aside from those people, it's been a really, really fantastic thing. I think the sort of thing that Charlie Kirk would have been extremely proud of. It's tough to say that, obviously. I don't think the juice is worth the squeeze on that one. I don't think it's worth the cost. Like I said the last time I had that I was on here talking about this, it's a loss for the movement, it's a loss for America, but at the end of the day, this may have inspired a whole generation of Charlie Kirks. What it can't inspire is, the husband and even more importantly, the father that was lost through this. Very, very young father with very, very young kids, and that's an extremely human tragedy. So, I don't ever want to lose sight of that in the wake of this. That said, there has been a lot of good that's come from it, and I think it's something that Charlie himself would have been extremely proud of. I didn't know him super well. I only met him, I think 3 times, but he was a nice enough guy every time I met him, and he was obviously working really, really hard to try to make this country better. But yeah, and as far as the people who are on this anti-woke MAGA crusade, whatever they want to call it, you can go ahead and dig into them yourselves. And most of them, up until a couple of years ago, were either Democrats themselves or were supporting Ron DeSantis' campaign for president. And then before that were, like Lindsey Graham, they were always anti-Trump from the beginning. Very few of these people were ever actually on board. So I take everything they say with a big fat grain of salt. But that is the other thing that I want to talk about. And it's the other thing I've seen, right? You have a lot of people who are very angry at the MAGA base who want to actually do something to make this country better, but you have a lot of people who actually want to make this country better, who see somebody get shot down in the name of patriotism and in the name of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, and they want to get involved. And that's something I've seen across the country, right? We saw it just, for example, with a lot of these prayer rallies that we saw out there. I actually want to play a video of one of them that I saw. This was in a small town, just a very small town. And look how crowded this was. And this, there were prayer rallies, prayer vigils near me, multiple ones in the San Diego area. They sprung up all across the country. And that's because this is something that people feel strongly about, even people who didn't know who Charlie Kirk was before. This is the kind of country where people are able, at least they're supposed to be able, to have political discussions and figure out the best idea and allow people to make decisions for themselves and not shoot them dead for it. So I'm not surprised that we saw so many people that were inflamed by this. I'm not surprised. I am stoked on it, though. What did surprise me, what took me a little off guard, though maybe I shouldn't have been, was the very Christian message that came from Charlie Kirk's widow, Erica Kirk.
My husband, Charlie, he wanted to save young men just like the one who took his life. young man. On the cross, our Savior said, "Father, forgive them, for they not know what they do." That man, that young man, I forgive him.
Now, I know there's a lot of wacky conspiracy theories out there, and I'm not going to address that right now. Maybe I will in another, episode when I have everything prepared. But, and I am following that. But what I want to say about this is, no matter what you think, this is a woman who lost her husband. It's a woman who lost the father of her children, and whatever you want to believe, those things are true facts. And, no matter what you want to believe about a person, I'm someone who's married with kids, and I couldn't imagine losing one of the parents of my kids. I guess I'm one of the parents, so my wife, but it's even more different when it's a man, right? When it's like the father. There's so much. I mean, I guess that's true for a mother, but this is a lady whose life is completely changed, irrevocably changed, and not for the better, and in a way that's going to be difficult, in a way that she's going to have to carry with her for the rest of her life. So what she did there is extremely powerful, and something that I don't know I would have been ready to do if I was her in that moment. And quite frankly, a lot of people feel very, very similar, right? That's why I wrote here, as difficult as that must have been for her, that forgiveness does seem to be even more difficult for some people to accept. And this is something that I see growing significantly online, especially on the right. I see a lot of conservatives who, they talk about paganism. I actually had a guy on my show who wrote, this is nothing against him, the book was really great, he had some great ideas. He was talking about the rise of pagan morality in America in the wake of new atheism, and how godlessness ultimately ends to a pagan morality. But there's a lot of people who are actually pagan out there, right-wing people, not your hot topic goth, mall goth, Wiccans. I'm talking about very, very right-wing people who are thinking about things in terms of what morality can do for them. And they see the pagan gods as being strong figures that were, or whether or not they were, they can at least now be identified with, and I'm not going to get into, 1940s stuff, but they could say, hey, white people are being, and I'm not actually, white's not even the right term, European people are being threatened, especially in Europe. And the Christian moral system allows for the mass importation of non-Europeans into Europe, and allows them to terrorize European people, and expects Europeans to, offer forgiveness at every turn and allow themselves to be destroyed utterly. Whereas these pagan gods, these warlike pagan gods, give you the pass to push back against this violent incursion that allows women and children to be victimized and good men to be slain, right? And that's what I see increasingly pushed online, and the degree to which these people spiritually believe in the existence or power or, truth or supremacy of the pagan gods that they worship is besides the point. The reality is that this is something that's bubbling up, and, bubbles form on a lot of different points on the pot, but the truth is the temperature's going up, and that's something that we need to pay attention to, right? And I actually work, I have a pagan friend of mine. I know a guy he's a good guy. He's not an amoral dude. He is a pagan, though. He's one of these new right-wing neo-pagans that you are seeing more and more of online. And, I told the guy that there are plenty of people who want to emphasize the moral nature of Christianity, the way that it can reform a bad person and, show them the right path to walk down and cleanse a wicked soul and offer reformation and offer good and offer, a way out of wickedness, right? And, often people emphasize that for good reason. Often there are people who have needed that in their own lives, but the truth is that that's not actually the point of Christianity, right? The point of Christianity isn't just to be a good person, to be good for goodness sake. The point of Christianity is a relationship with Christ, a relationship with the God of creation, the Lord of all things, right? And we're called to be good because God is good. If we want to have a closeness to God, we have to be like God. We have to be perfect as our Father in heaven is perfect. And God is good. That's his nature. So we're called to emulate that goodness. And just like any practice, it's not supposed to be easy. You think a kung fu master has an easy time smacking those boards? Sometimes it does hurt, but that's the discipline that we're called to if we want to have unity with the Lord of creation. And anyone who examines these things with any level of seriousness is going to understand that Christianity is the true faith, the historic faith running from Adam to Christ to you and I today through our baptism. So, that's just the nuts and bolts of it. And it is tough. It is tough. But the reality is that can be warped by evil people as well. So something that I really I appreciate, is the idea that evil isn't a created thing unto itself. It's a deprivation or a warping of good. And that allows you to see a lot of ways that good is manipulated toward evil. It's something that the left loves to do, and this is a fantastic example. They like to manipulate empathy. They like to manipulate goodness to accomplish evil goals. But the truth is, goodness does not equal passivity. It does not. Being good does not allow for evil to continue. In fact, quite frankly, if you even wanted to take like a extreme altruist point of view, if you look at someone who's committing evil, someone who, let's say a pagan would say, let's torture that wicked person because they have it coming. Someone who did something completely awful, right? If you were, let's say you have a serial rapist, murderer, scum of the earth, right? If you want to be the ultimate Christian altruist, and love that person, well, do you think loving them is allowing them to continue in a sin that's going to deepen their damnation into hell? Quite frankly, it is better to lock these people up, throw them in prison. Quite frankly, it is better for them to be dead than to continue in that kind of sin. Quite frankly, it is the Christian thing to do. Yeah, not torture them to death. Like the blood eagle, break their back and draw their lungs out through their backs and display them in a ritual act of humiliation and pain. But quite frankly, something that Christians have forgotten a little bit about is that suffering is good. Suffering aligns you away, properly aligned, when you can put it in the perspective of God, aligns you away from evil, away from self-indulgence, toward the greater good, toward the love of God, right? So at the end of the day, if we really loved these people who are up to evil things, we would take every measure possible to prevent them from doing any more evil, even if just for their own sake. Whether that means throwing them in prison or lobbing their heads off as quickly as they can so they could return to their judge and creator. And, I don't know why nobody's saying that, but there's a Christian argument for being extremely heavy-handed with these wicked people that are running around on the face of the earth. And that's the stance that I take by God. And ultimately, let's dial it back a little. If we want to be a little less altruistic to the evildoer, or even going beyond that, we do have an affirmative duty to protect the innocent, right? Christ is called a shepherd. Do you think a shepherd allows a wolf to walk amongst its sheep, killing at will? No. He uses his rod and his staff to shepherd the sheep. That's what we're called to do as well, especially people like myself who are put at the head of a family. And ultimately, any young men and women in our society too. We're called to do these things and be strong for the sake of good, for the sake of God, not just for the sake of good. Again, we're not just good for goodness sake. And honestly, I think that, if there's any better example of this sort of speech, the speech that would be emblematic of Christ as Lord of Justice, it was none other than one of the more controversial speeches of that evening, Stephen Miller.
Hello, Turning Point. Hello, Patriots. Hello to our fearless president, Donald J. Trump. And hello to millions of Americans all across this land.
So they got him behind that double
We're
bulletproof
gathered
glass.
in sadness and sorrow to mourn Charlie Kirk, but also to dedicate ourselves to finishing his mission and achieving.
I like Stephen Miller. He's like that alpha bald, like the alien Prometheus. He's gonna charge you down. Raw! I'm all about it.
The day that Charlie died,
I'm never gonna be bald, but I think I could handle being bald really
angels
well.
wept, but those tears have been turned into fire in our hearts.
Hell yeah.
And that fire burns with a righteous fury
Hell yeah.
that our enemies cannot comprehend or understand.
Hell yeah.
When I see Erica and her strength and her courage, I'm reminded of a famous expression. The storm whispers to the warrior that you cannot withstand my strength. And the warrior whispers back, I am the storm. Erica
Literally
is
the only
storm.
place I've ever seen that is like quoted on
We are the
Facebook
storm.
memes shared by like
And
Mama
our
Bear
enemies
types.
cannot comprehend
Which I mean,
our
those ladies are
strength,
pretty awesome.
our
They made a big
determination,
difference in the
our
COVID fight. So
resolve, our passion,
it's a little corny for
our
Stephen Miller.
lineage and our legacy hails back to Athens, to Rome, to Philadelphia, to Monticello. Our ancestors
It's the city of
built
brotherly
the
love.
cities. They produced the art and architecture. They built the industry.
A lot of people don't know this, but they built those cities on rock and
stands
roll.
on the shoulders of thousands of years of warriors, of women who raised up families, raised up city, raised up industry, raised up civilization, who pulled us out of the caves and the darkness into the light. The light will defeat the dark. We will prevail over the forces of wickedness and evil.
Yeah, we will.
They cannot imagine what
buddy.
they have awakened.
Yeah,
they
buddy.
cannot conceive of the army that they have arisen in all of us.
Yeah, this is it.
Because
This is it.
we stand for what is good, what is virtuous, what is noble. And to those trying to incite violence against us, those trying to foment hatred against us, what do you have? You have nothing. You are nothing. You are wickedness, you are jealousy, you are envy, you are hatred. You are nothing. You can build nothing. You can produce nothing. You can create nothing.
This is
We
our
are
world.
the ones who build. We are the ones who create. We are the ones who lift up humanity. You thought you could kill Charlie Kirk? You have made him immortal. You have immortalized Charlie Kirk. And now millions will carry on his legacy. And we will devote the rest of our lives to finishing the causes for which Charlie gave his last measure of devotion. You cannot defeat us. You cannot slow us. You cannot stop us. You cannot deter us. We will carry Charlie and Erica in our heart every single day and fight that much harder because of what you did to us. You have no idea the dragon you have awakened. You have no idea how determined we will be to save this civilization, to save the West, to save this republic. Because our children are strong, and our grandchildren will be strong, and our children's children's children will be strong. And what will you leave behind?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah, nothing.
To our enemies, you have nothing to give, you have nothing to offer, you have nothing to share.
All you do is
But
destroy.
bitterness. We have beauty, we have light, we have goodness, we have determination, we have vision, we have strength. We built the world that we inhabit now.
Yeah.
Generation by generation. And we will defend this world.
And we won't stop.
We will defend goodness.
Yep.
We will defend light. We will defend virtue. You cannot terrify us. You cannot frighten us. You cannot threaten us. Because we are on the side of goodness. We are on the side of God. And to my friend Charlie.
Yeah, we stand on the shoulders of giants. We stand in the light of God.
I know you are looking at us right now. I know you're watching Erica right now. I know you're watching your children right now. And I promise you, my friend, I promise you, my brother, we will prove worthy of your sacrifice. We will prove worthy of your time on earth. We will make you proud. We will finish the job. We will defeat the forces of darkness and evil. And we will stand every day for what is true, what is beautiful, what is good. And we will achieve victory for our children, for our families, for our civilization, and for every patriot who stands with us. God bless you. God bless Turning Point. God bless Erica. God bless the Kirk family. God bless our heroes. And God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
Yep. There we go. There we go. There we go. I love it. I love it. Love it. One way that people are taking action is through basic accountability. Yes, would you believe that? And by that, I mean making people stand by the things that they say publicly. Yes, this might feel a little familiar, but also different, because the last time around, yes, it was the conservatives getting canceled. You know, poor Roseanne Barr and Alex Jones and a million other people. And they've been doing it. They've been doing it for years and years and years. That's the truth. Alex Denny, who I had on my show, he lost a show on the cooking channel just because he made a joke. So you know, we've you know, and honestly, canceling was just the first phase, right? What, they went from canceling us and getting us fired to, that was a decade ago, to getting us arrested, and you know, not just the January 6ers, but pro-life protesters, parents at school board meetings. Basically, they arrested a guy who posted a meme online about the election. God, don't be an election denier. That'll get you a good one. Yes, anyone, oh, of course, can't forget anyone the audacity to ignore a COVID mandate. They got sent to the clink as well. Oh, yeah. And then after that, they burned all of our cities down and blamed us for it, and then started shooting at us. Oh, and they would jail people when they tried to defend themselves from getting shot. Look at the McCloskeys. So yeah, that's where we're at now. So we are actually trying to hold people accountable for saying that we should continue in this madness and execute conservatives in the street. Sorry, that's just the way it works now. These are the rules you made. That's why we're playing by them. Maybe that's why I wasn't one of those people boo-hooing about free speech when Jimmy Kimmel got canceled for what they're calling a joke. Though, honestly, it seemed less like a joke and more like him just BSing.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them, and doing everything they can to score political points from it.
You mean the kid who wrote anti-fascist messaging, who quoted a song used by anti-fascist paramilitaries in their training videos, Bella Ciao, which was used by PKK Kurdish Soviet-trained militants who trained with United States Antifa members to fight against ISIS, and then sent those guys back to train with Antifa groups like Rose City Antifa up in Portland. And you mean the same kid who was also dating a transsexual? That one is MAGA somehow? No, that wasn't a joke. That wasn't a funny. Maybe I just missed the punchline. That was Jimmy Kimmel just lying, slandering an entire political movement who right now is being targeted for political violence. So yeah, a lot of people have talked about Jimmy Kimmel actually getting fired because his ratings were bad, and maybe that did play a factor, but honestly, as many bad moves as Disney has made, they do still have a public image, and I do think that to a certain degree, when you're talking about someone who's supposed to be a lighthearted late-night show host, tap dancing on somebody's still fresh grave is revolting to a lot of people. Maybe that's actually what had a little bit to do with the Disney's decision. But, you know, maybe I'm only giving Disney just a little bit too much credit. Maybe they only do care about audience numbers, which would make this an extremely prudent decision, right? The Overton window has shifted, not just for us canceling people, but yes, for Democrats. And they've gone from canceling to, you know, protesting to, yes, shooting. And that includes shooting at ABC. Somebody actually shot up one of the ABC studios, and immediately after that, they decided to basically say, yeah, that's a method that does work, and put Jimmy Kimmel back on air. And now Jimmy is back, but I'm sure he's going to be very, very serious and take this as a moment to, maybe say, no, we don't want any political violence. I'm actually sorry. I shouldn't have contributed to those things, right? Maybe he'll even, apologize. What did I write here? Yeah, maybe, I'm sure Jimmy will see this as an opportunity to call for unity instead of perceiving this as some sort of moral victory in what I can only assume is his quest to either drive this country into civil war or at the very least keep getting paid to parrot messaging from people who want that because he can't support himself now that he's lost whatever audience he was able to gain from doing the man show and wearing blackface. Let's listen to here. Listen to see what he had to say.
I don't think
himself.
what
Listen
I have to
hear
say
it.
is going to make much of a difference. If you like me, you like me. If you don't, you don't. I have no illusions about changing anyone's mind. But I do want to make something clear because it's important to me as a human, and that is, you understand that it was never my intention to make light of the murder of a young man.
They almost took my job. I'd get emotional, too, if I was going to lose millions of dollars a year.
Anything funny about it? I posted a message
Shit,
on
I get
Instagram
emotional if I even had $1 million.
sending love to his family and asking for compassion, and I meant it, and I still do. Nor was it my intention to blame any specific group for the actions of what it was obviously a deeply disturbed individual.
No, you did.
That was
That was
really
your
the
intention. You
opposite
literally
of the
said he
point
was a
I
MAGA
trying
guy.
to make, but I understand
You're
that
lying.
to some that
Just a
felt
lie.
either ill-timed or unclear.
Compounding
or
a
maybe
lie with a
both.
lie.
And
Why
for
don't
those
you
who
just
think
say, hey,
did,
I said the wrong thing?
point a finger. I get why you're upset. If this
Oh, no, we're wrong.
There's a good chance
We're upset. We're
I'd
the
have felt
ones.
the same way. I have many friends and family members on the other side who I love
No, you
and
don't.
remain close to,
That's a
even
lie.
though we don't agree on politics at all. I don't think the murderer who shot Charlie Kirk represents anyone. This was a sick person.
No,
who
he
believed
represents your side.
violence was a solution,
represents your
and
side.
it isn't. Ever. And also, selfishly, I am a person who gets a lot of threats. I get
When you
many
say
ugly and
Nazis
scary
deserve to
threats
be
against
punched
my
and
life,
call us
my
Nazis,
wife,
he
my
actually
kids,
does.
my coworkers,
He is
because
your
of what
side.
I choose to say.
That's your side.
And I know those threats don't come from the kind of
And
people
you guys said
on the
that.
right
That
who
wasn't
I
just
know
like
and
some
love.
fringe
So that's
goofer.
what
That
I
was
wanted
you.
to say
You were the
on
ones
that
posting the
subject. But I
stupid
don't want to
Indiana
make
Jones
this about
memes.
me because, and I know this is what people say when they make things about them, but I really don't. This show is not important. What is important is that
that
we
right.
get to live in a country that allows us to have a show like this.
Oh, give Roseanne Barr her show back. They took us off the air. One American News, not me here, obviously. They'll probably take down this YouTube channel sooner or later, so like and subscribe while you can. But they took One American News off air because we dare talk about the election and the COVIDs. But Jimmy Kimmel gets to slander us and it's okay, right? I joke that the Democrats have been whittling themselves down to just coastal elites and their welfare recipient donor base, but at this point, Jimmy Kimmel honestly represents both of those things simultaneously. His entire show is just a charity act by USAID, maybe? Is that why he's getting canceled? Because those funds are drying up? I'm sure Disney isn't getting any of that money. Right. But he was getting paid a decent amount for this show. Let's see. Multiple reputable sources estimate Jimmy Kimmel's annual salary for Jimmy Kimmel Live with an exclamation point because nobody's going to say with excitement unless they're cued to. They estimate his salary is around $15 to $16 million a year. Yeah, that's worth getting choked up about. With approximately 170 episodes per season. That's like half as many as my show was doing, you lazy bum. You had a giant team, too. Gosh. That works out to a per episode host salary of around $88,000 a year. Is my boss watching this? God, I hope so. Honestly, it probably is only a matter of time until they find another reason to get rid of the guy, even though they brought him back because of the screaming and bitching and moaning. And honestly, any time an organization does something like this, they're doing the worst possible thing. They're making everybody angry. They're making the left angry when they cut him. They're making the right angry when they bring him back. And now everyone thinks they're weak and feckless and don't have any morals whatsoever. So I guess they do have an accurate image of Disney. But there are some Republicans like Ted Cruz who are saying that this is bad for free speech, right? After comments from FCC Chair Brian Carr Some are saying that this amounts to government pressure, the suppression of free speech, almost as bad as when the Biden administration pressured Google to take down the YouTube accounts of people who had not violated any community standards, but had questioned COVID-19 or, God forbid, or democracy forbid, I should say, election security. You know, for years, conservatives were told that we were supposed to be happy with being canceled, right? Because that's actually free speech and the free market. And that if we were really capitalists, we would just go out and start our own systems and build our own companies and build our own audience base. And that was, 5 years ago? And honestly, we did. Elon Musk bought X. We have Rumble, which is still not quite as good as YouTube, let's be honest, but they're operational and they provide a platform for people that YouTube is canceled. And as long as they continue to do that, they'll have a solid business model that will allow them to get better to a point where maybe the functional differences between the two will be insignificant. Maybe it'll be a very, very viable competitor. Maybe Google will have, or Alphabet will have letters bitten off of them, alpha bitten off of them one by one, until all of these woke corporations suffer a death by a million cuts. But as for the little piece that's been lobbed off now, Jimmy Kimmel, tough luck, Chuck. Start a Rumble account. And to make sure that this channel gets at least a few more subscribers than Jimmy Kimmel, shouldn't be too hard, go ahead and drop a like, subscribe, and share this video with a friend.